everybody. Thanks to David Cronenberg's wife for playing a great set earlier. Before I stir without you, I get up but I can't recall what for without you, and the houseplants aren't doing very well without you. The recycling started to pile up and smell without you. My sense of up or down goes straight to hell without you. Now's the time to go back to bed, yet I can't tell without you. Without you, and in the garbage goes the groceries I'm not eating without you. I got an old half cup of coffee I'm reheating without you. I don't go out 'cause there's no one I'm meeting without you, and there's no way I spray the shower curtain grinds without you. Why try to rid the kitchen sink with slimes without you? Why stop that lousy cockroach on climbs without you? Still can't finish Friday's crossword in the Times without you. She's out of town. She's out of town. She's out of town. Visiting her mother. I tell a joke, but don't nobody laugh without you, because I'm like a tall tree with no giraffe without you. My self-worth has dropped so low it's off the graph without you. And it's only been 1 week day and a half without you. So is it Friday or Monday? I'm not sure without you. All the days go by in such a boring blur without you. I hit the snooze 10 times before I stir without you. I get up but I can't recall what for without you. She's out of town. She's out of town. She's out of town. Visiting her brother. wishes. Well, you can quote from philosophers or Bibles or songs that find hope in the hopeless and find right in the wrongs. You can wear art and wisdom like a bulletproof vest, but sometimes life hits you like a hammer to the chest and you say, ow, fuck, that hurt. Ow, fuck, that hurt. Ow, fuck, that hurt. Someday it's your time to feel like you're dying. You're gonna have yours, and I'm gonna have mine. All you think they want to live, got through and enjoyed it. I'ma tell you, yeah, right, you're gonna avoid it. But you got gold shirts to the fire and death, and you can sit to the right, you can zag to the left. No bad breakups or bad luck or death, but life will hit you someday somehow like a chainsaw to the chest, and you'll say, you'll say, you'll probably just say, ow, fuck, this hurts. Despite the fact that many humans throughout many cultures and civilizations have done their best to come up with something that might actually help. Probably a whole lot of religions, a lot of philosophies, a lot of poetry, a lot of sad country songs. A lot of things that have been specifically designed to try to make you feel better at the time when you need it, and somehow we've all failed, gone down throughout the ages. The Industrial Revolution, the Iron Age, the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Middle Bronze Age. Hunter-gatherer times, nothing really works. I don't know why. We keep trying, but when that thing happens, it gets into your chest, you're gonna look at those options. And nothing's gonna really help. I suspect, unfortunately, you'll just have to say, ow, fuck, this hurts. Ow, fuck, this hurts. That's it, nothing works. Ow, fuck, this hurts. Yeah. Fuck you. That big solo will help. dangerous and unrecommendable things in my history as a performer. Putting a new laptop on a dodgy music stand is among them. We start with Harry Smith in 1950, a beatnik weirdo who moved to New York City. His huge collections were insane of Easter eggs and paper airplanes and rare records. He had about 1,060,000. To change America through music was his hope, and to make some money because he was broke, he compiled a triple-decker collection of songs from his records that we call the Smithsonian Anthology of American Folk. Monday morning, the great ship Titanic, the captain will rock. Husbands and wives, little children lost their lives. Was a bit sad when that great ship went down. Smith's plan began to work as foretold. This weird music began to take hold. It sparked an interest in these forms of life underground from the norms, and soon millions of folk records were being sold. So by the early 60s, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, Phil Oakes were all inspired by those old folks. Then one strange duo of downtowners called the Holy Modal Rounders began to make it more anarchistic with weird voices and drug jokes. Mom's out there, switching in the kitchen, and Dad's in the living room, grousing and bitching. I'm out here, kicking the gong for euphoria, euphoria. When your mind starts feeling out of walking, your inside voices start squealing and squawking, floating around on a cloud singing euphoria. That was 1964. Then in 1965, Lou Reed and John Cale in a Ludlow Street dive recorded a demo with a similar musical spin, sounding a bit like the Rounders acoustic and violin, with even more New York Street drug jive. Hey white boy, what you doing uptown? Hey white boy, you chasing our women around?
Pardon me, sir, nothing can be farther from my mind. I'm just waiting for a dear, dear friend of mine.
I'm waiting for you, man. A little earlier in 65, the Holy Modal Rounders had met some other intellectual thugs on East 10th Street who called themselves the Fugs. The Fugs were recorded by that same Harry Smith, playing the punkiest songs yet to exist. Lo-fi noisy stuff about poetry, sex, and drugs. I don't have a bedtime, I don't need to come, for I have become an amphetamine bum. If you don't like sleeping and don't want to screw, then you should take lots of amphetamine too. Harry Smith recorded an incredible 3-hour fog session that spring, including Tuli Kuperberg's great song, Nothing. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, Thursday, nothing. Friday, for change, a little more, nothing. Saturday, once more, nothing. Friday, nothing. Sunday, nothing. Flesh and sex, nothing. The world's great books are a great set of nothing. Social anthropology. The Fugs were real poets with real topics to speak out, and through the new underground scene, this weird music could leak out, beginning the punk idea that anybody could do it without needing much musical ability to it, and this new crazy music started getting called freak out. In 1966, the Fugs signed to New York label ESP. The same label put out a freak out band called The Gods, spelled with a Z. The Gods accomplished the feat of making even the Fugs music sound sweet, with the least musical folk punk racket in history. Meow. And it really sounded exactly like that. Far from the West Coast hippie scene, New York's underground music was far from mainstream. It was intellectual, but noisy and hectic. And then the Velvet Underground went electric and made folk punk more beautiful and more extreme. side. In 1968 came David Peel onto the Lower East Side. They recorded an album out in the street, screaming and sloppy. Danny Fields signed them to Elektra Records, and it sold a lot of copies, with songs like I Like Marijuana and Up Against the Wall, Motherfucker, inside. Where is my father? Where is my brother? They're at war. They're at war. You made them join the dirty U.S. Army. You told them all to be white lies. You gave them all the bullshit and the lottery. And now my brother and my father gonna have to die. And the Stooges were a freak-out band in Detroit, but folks ignored them until Danny Fields brought them to New York and had John Cale of the Velvets record them. While most acid rock was turning into progressive, the Stooges instead went raw and aggressive, and Iggy Pop sang about degradation and boredom. All right. 1969, okay. War across the USA. It's another year for me and you. It's another year with nothing to do. It's another year for me and you. Another year with nothing to do. Well, in 1969, baby. Well, in 1969, baby. Well, in 1970, David Peel's second album came with some amazing songs and some a little lame. In most pre-punk histories, David Peel is forgot because he was a hippie singing songs about punk. But his second album is sort of the first album with the real sound that electric punk rock soon became. We are from the Lower East Side. We don't give a damn if we live or die. We are from the Lower East Side. We don't give a damn if we live or die. And even though it was a few years before this was something the Clash would also try to do, this album even had a song that mixed punk with reggae. The very nice song, I Want to Kill You. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's all the people of the future generation. It's all the people in the world of demonstration. It's all the people in the life of aggravation. We've got to change the world before annihilation. The word punk to describe 60s enthusiastic teenage rock junk. In 1972, the New Yorker Lenny Kaye puts out the 60s garage rock compilation Nuggets and coins the phrase punk rock in the liner notes of it, although punk rock would soon come to mean something different from the 60s pop songs that Lester and Lenny thought. Like this one. I feel depressed, I feel so bad. Thought you're the best girl that I've ever had. Well, Lenny Kaye was also a guitarist, and he began playing music with an East Side poet named Patti Smith, who would use it to mix her wild poetry with simple rock stuff, like the Fugs in a way, but less rough. A postmodern way to take high art and low art and fuse it. heart. The Johnny Thunders, David Johansen sound mixed the old style, simple rock with the new New York underground and sort of defined the moment when stupid on purpose became the new smart. Began punk fashion as well, with spiked hair and ripped clothes worn by the poet Richard Hell. Hell was in television, the Neon Boys, the Heartbreakers, the Voidoids, and he wrote the song that gave the new 70s punk generation its first anthem, Yell. I was saying the other here before I was even born, so you gamble when you gotta finish. It's fascinating to observe what the mirror does, but when I die, it's the wall that I self-live. Take it all, anytime. Yeah, I belong to the generation, but I can take it all, anytime. Well, 34, 35, CG starts out punk shows, with television, Patty Smith, and the Ramones. 76, punk fans began, then the whole thing moved to England. England stole all the credit, and that's how it goes. Yeah, come here, I hear a story side, from 1950 to 1975. I can't imagine living with a Doberman Shepherd. I can't imagine living with an Indian Leopard. I just don't want to know about a creeping iguana. Offer me a bumblebee, I'll say I don't wanna. Frogs are the animal that's dear to me truly. Frogs aren't friendly, but they're rarely unruly. Frogs have the fortitude to fulfill their duty, with wisdom, personality, and physical beauty. I haven't got the hops for any giant tortugas. I never cruise a spot for tropical barracudas. I don't appreciate a petting zoo of alpacas. Sci-fi chupacabras, unicorns, or chewbaccas. Frogs are the fantasy I don't have to make up. Frogs freaking hibernate and then freaking wake up. Frogs have a certain sort of je ne sais something. What I love most about it, well, it's hard to say one thing. Maybe it's the way they jump in frog jumping races. Maybe it's that grumpy froggy look on their faces. Maybe it's the fact they got more heel than Achilles. Or the way they feel about Monet's water lilies. Maybe it's the way they rarely offer rebuttals. Maybe it's the way they live in rivers and puddles. Maybe it's the mystery of all time on the planet. Half standing on the land, half in the slime that began it. Frogs are the animal that stands for the good things. Frogs have always seemed like they deeply understood things. Frogs are the finest from the moment their tails shrink, with deeper thoughts than anything that humans or whales think. If I spoke in croaks, I'd ask a frog for forgiveness. Frogs will bring it back to me to mind my own business. Frogs are not a figment of my imagination. Frogs are swell, and that's a well-deserved reputation. If I had a chance, I'd take a tadpole to Paris and tell it when you're grown you could become Kamala Harris, or grow to offer Gandhi level peace dialogue, or even better yet, you'll grow up into a frog. Frogs are the animal that's dear to me truly. Frogs aren't friendly, but they're rarely unruly. Frogs have the fortitude to fulfill their duty, with wisdom, personality, and physical beauty. Try to see your parents born just a week old now. If they just can't let you live without always being told how, then spend time with your child, be responsible and silent. But you lose it and you know that you're a monster and a tyrant. It's family, so you call, cause you're too grown up to fume. But somehow you've hung up and thrown the phone across the room. It's your only plan. A loser, you just never get it right. Down from the way that you were raised to how your own home is tonight. These are the ones you love the best, so why is it always such a mess? And what the hell's it for, since you're rotten to the core? Well, it's fun. It's just fun. Pick out someone friendly who romantically excites you. Start the hopeful dreaming of what if he or she likes you. Know that you can love them and build up a blissful fantasy that this is finally something and how good your lives will be. But then feel wretched when it's clear it's just your far-fetched dumb idea. Remember that you're lame and ugly, grown and cry. Why would they love me? Why even try to cope? And why even have hope? You're disgusting, that's for sure. So what's hoping for? Well, it's fun. It's just fun. Know your only joy would be a life of creativity. So never have a moment when you're actually at liberty. Live a life where friends or relaxation leaves you irking, cause it's wasting time with nonsense when you know you should be working. Foresee your glowing promise as an actor or a painter, then get honest, you're a hack who knows their glow is getting fainter. Then know your life's been total dirt and wish you could begin again. Then crumple one more worthless work and toss it in the bin again. You hung your head against the desk and suffered in the agony of coming face to face against that stuff that you can never be. It's lame and infantile, all this stupid, useless trial. Frustrations and impatience and complete humiliation. You're just not fortunate, that's certain. So why this tortured, screaming burden? Well, it's fun. It's just fun. She buys $20 bottles of wine. Her tastes go $8 more than mine. And what's so bad about the thoughts this brings? And what's $8 in the scheme of things? I gotta judge her or not, lest I get judge myself. When I see her looking through that $20 shelf, I'm quite confused about how this makes me feel. Is it a tiny dollar difference or a huge reveal? Is it just a circumstantial, meaningless decision? Or a fundamental barrier of class division? When I was a starting artist, I just couldn't know. I never asked, is that a Malbec or a Grigio? But I built a cool career up and now here we are. But the $20 shelf is still a bridge too far. Cause she likes $20 wine. She taps her credit card and signs the dotted line. Now what's so bad about the thoughts this brings? And what's $8 in the scheme of things? I gotta say, judge not, lest thou wilt judge thyself. When I see her looking through the $20 shelf. She's quite a special lady and I'm glad we've met. It's so depressing texting strangers on the internet. Now we've had a couple dates and now we're buying wine. Now I'm finding out her planet's not the same as mine. I go $12 to $15 and I think that's nice. That just seems completely normal and I don't think twice. To me, I'm living large. To her, I'm living small. I mean, to me, it just feels classy buying wine at all. But she likes $20 wine. Limited, organic batches, that's a warning sign. You can say that I'm a recluse or a basket case, but this section of the wine store is a scary place. I gotta judge her not, lest I get judged myself. When I see her looking through that $20 shelf. I would go $15, but at $16 I'd stop. And that's an $18 bottle cause there's tax on top. In Manhattan or in Brooklyn or in Jackson Heights, I say that ought to be sufficient for romantic nights. But she ain't even considering my kind of bottle. What's she think, that I'm a star and she's a fashion model? I have thought, great, we can relate, I'll get a kid and a wife. Now for the sake of $8, I just can't see that life. Cause she likes $20 wine. I gave this my best shot, but I just can't keep trying. When you looked me in the eyes, I saw a life of love. Sharing $15 wine and not a buck above. I know they say judge not, let's have a judge thyself. But the buck stops at the $20 and over shelf. She was creative, and she was brilliant, and she was looking fine. But a dating app should filter for fancy schmancy wine, pretentious wine, financial district wine. My broken heart is crying at the shelf of the fancy wine. $20 wine. I thought 12 was fine. I can see it in the eyes of the wine store clerk. He's looking at us and thinking this will never work. When I was an astronaut, I didn't take my boots. When I was a coal miner, I didn't know the news. When I was a record store, I didn't have the blues. I travel light and that's the life for me.
He doesn't care where else he goes. He's not gonna take any extra clothes or extra shoes to hide his feet. The ground is bare, the dirt is cheap.
When I go to London town, I'll stand under a rock until I know all the time it takes to pack a buck. Then I'll flip it over, close the key, swallow the lock. I travel light and that's the life for me.
He doesn't take his schooner for. He's seen too many, even make me pure. He'll use his hands to pick and eat the fruit he finds. He'll find it sweet.
She lives a life like a bandit winning, elemental wife, fortune is her friend. A smile on a planet, a river made of light. She's just a pebble on a waterfall tonight.
When I go to Boston, I'll stand around in jeans and save the cash to leave by selling black market baked beans. Denim's what I like to wear, it has durable seams. I'll travel light and that's the life for me.
She is just a genius without a thinking cap. Never pays the rent, she's funny like that. I don't know what she's on, she is here and gone. Rides a welcome mat on a jungle cat. Furs and sofa chairs and shiny things are just a fuss. We'll eat all the peanuts that we steal from the circus. We'll count all the stars and go to sleep under the bus. We'll travel light and that's the life for us. We'll travel light and that's the life for us.
We'll travel light and that's the life for us.
We'll travel light.
And that's the life for us.
Years ago, why'd I eat the acid? I don't know. I wasn't thinking and I wasn't scared. Why'd I eat the acid? I wasn't prepared. The last time I did acid, I went insane. I was hanging out with some friends, just getting loaded, when all of a sudden my mind exploded. I realized I was gay and I got paranoid. I was sitting on the floor listening to Pink Floyd. The last time I did acid, I went insane. I was drawing crazy pictures, and before I was done, The picture started pulsing like an alien lung, and I said, oh my God, this has just begun. And it was 12 more hours before I was done. We were up on the rooftop, and I'll tell you the truth, I was convinced I'd already fallen off of the roof. And these weird metal things all around that space, they were teleporting me from place to place. The last time I did acid, I went insane. So we ran back downstairs where it was better to be, but I was trapped in spiral staircase infinity. And when we got to the door, I couldn't go inside, because it was the gates of heaven and I had died. The last time I did acid, I went insane. And this kid named Greg, he punched a cat in the head. He could read my thoughts, that's what he said, and he described what it was like, but I didn't believe it, like lifting a rug and seeing stars beneath it. And the first rule of tripping was, don't be with people you don't trust. The second rule of LSD, the rooftop is not a good place to be. The third rule is to be prepared. The fourth rule is to not get scared. The fifth rule is to stay serene, turn off your mind and float downstream. The sixth rule is to have a good friend at hand. The seventh rule, I hope you understand, is not to look too deep into your soul, or you might find it hideous, hopeless, full of hatred, hunger, infinite, idiot, mindless, meaningless, nothingness, 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 nothingness. And that's what I did. Cause every aspect of life that I selected was instantly and brutally dissected. I saw horrible emptiness within, and the reasons behind everything. And it was at that moment that I went insane. It was actually on that evening that I discovered the meaning of life, which unfortunately had the negative effect of destroying my consciousness, ruining my young life, despite the fact that I was only 16 at the time. No human being had discovered what I discovered that evening, which was totally my own fault, because I was the one who had to take it so seriously, even though all my friends were just having fun, getting wasted, getting high. I thought, those fools, they're just doing foolish young things. But I'm going to take this very seriously. I'm going to look deeply into the nature of human consciousness and all cosmic reality. I'm going to find out deep truths about things. So then when I found out the deep truths, especially the deepest truth of all, well, it was terrible, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, it was a terrible, life-altering situation. And I knew that the things that I had discovered were so terribly disturbing and so irrefutably factual that not only was my life to be forever ruined by having discovered this, but I was going to have to keep this secret to myself for the rest of my life, despite the fact that I was only 16 and I was theoretically going to live for many decades longer. And here I actually have for a number, lived somehow for many decades since that time, which seemed impossible at the time to conceive of, because I thought, how am I going to keep this secret in? Because if I tell people, I'll destroy their consciousness and then it'll get out. And I'll have been personally responsible for destroying the whole human race, ruining everybody's life. Why did it have to be me who discovered this? I'm going to have this big responsibility of keeping this secret to myself. But I did keep it to myself, because as you can see, the human race just keeps on going, as it has since that fateful night, circa 1992. But here we are in 2025, and it's just been too many decades of having to hold this secret in, so I think I apologize in advance for destroying your consciousnesses, but I am going to have to tell you, I don't think I can keep it in anymore, what I discovered when I was 16. And the deep, dark secret. Well, it's hard to remember precisely, but as these things tend to go. But it basically was that nothing is true because everything is true, because everybody thinks something different is true. And whatever they think is true, objectively true to them, but it's also objectively not true to somebody else, because somebody else thinks something different is true. Whether it's like which band you think is the greatest band, or what religious beliefs you have, people really think these things are true, and yet somebody else really, really thinks something different is true, therefore nothing is true, because all those things are true to each person that thinks they're true, and therefore, because everything is true, nothing is true. Now, I apologize for having destroyed your consciousness with that, but it gets even worse, because the next thing I realized was that that was just what I thought was true. But that left me in a terrible paradox, because I thought, if what I think is true is that everybody thinks something different is true, then nobody will ever be able to dissuade me from that thought, because if they were to tell me that something else was true, that would only convince me that what I thought was true is true, because what I think is true is that everybody thinks something different is true. Sorry for ruining your lives, but that was the last time I did acid. Sometimes, so watch out for that. We have some Grafton Straw stickers downstairs. That was Valerie on the bass a little earlier. So we do have a Valerie in the band currently. And we'll have Brent Cole on the drums. I saw him earlier. And this method of introducing the band members when they're not on stage, that way they don't get too embarrassed. Okay, here's a cover of a Crass song. Crass was an anarchist punk band in the late 70s, early 80s. They wrote many fantastic songs. It's very hard to hear the lyrics in the original Crass versions, because they're all like, kind of like that. But then after you listen to the records a bunch, you're like, well, actually, these words are really good. So here's the song. It goes like this. This is like my favorite Crass song. It goes like this. System, 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 nothing mind. System, 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 surgeon's night. System, 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 hacking at a door. System, 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 a child is born. Poor little sucker, poor little kid, never asked for life, no sharing it. Poor little baby, poor little Mike, crying out for food as her parents fight. Crying out for food as her parents fight. System, 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 send him to school. System, 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 force him to crawl. System, 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 teach him how to cheat. System, 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 kick him off his feet. Poor little schoolboy, poor little lad, no power if he's good and no beat if he's bad. Poor little kid, poor little chap, they'll force feed his mind with their useless crap. They'll force feed his mind with their useless crap. System, 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 they'll teach her how to cook. System, 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 they'll teach her how to look. System, 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 they'll teach her all the tricks. System, 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 they know the victims are easy picks. Poor little girlie, poor little wench, another little object, cry and pitch. Poor little sweetie, poor little lamb, they'll twist her mind up like a rusty can. They'll twist her mind up like a rusty can. System, 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 he's grown to be a man. System, 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 he's been taught to fit the plan. System, 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 40 years of jobs. System, 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 pushing little buttons, pulling little knobs. Poor little worker, poor little serf, working like a mule for half of what he's worth. Poor little grafter, poor little gent, working for the cash that he's already spent. Working for the cash that he's already spent. He's selling his life. He's loyal away. Timid as a mouse. He's got a little house. He's got this little car. He's got a cocktail bar. She likes to cook his meals. Sometimes he works late. But she doesn't really mind. He's getting overtime. They put a bit away. Because every little prefer
Like a bigger car.
big goodbye Buffalo.
Furniture for
You
sure.
might think it'll even work.
When you put them on a shirt.
You would prefer to stay.
And on his
He's
pay.
got a life of work
There's
ahead.
no rest of the day.
She's trying to make it nice. He's like, thank you once or twice. System, 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 you're private than you hope. System, 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 taught they couldn't cope. System, 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 slaves right from the start. System, 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 still health didn't part. Poor little sluggers, what a sorry pair. Had a long soul, but they didn't really care. Poor little dogs, just ordinary folks. Victims of the system and its cruel jokes. Victims of the system and its cruel jokes. The couple used the wreckage and dreams of home sweet home. They almost paid their mortgage when the system dropped its bomb. Well, I realized that we had a portion of the set devoted to American New York City punk rock, and then that was a little section of British punk rock. So that's very even-minded of us. And here we'll go back to American culture with this next one as we cross back across the Atlantic. This one is going to be a comic book presentation. One of these things that I like to think of as low-budget films. And because we have this beautiful giant screen here, it's even more cinematic than usual. This was part of a project that I took on to try to create Jeffrey Lewis feel as futility, because we're all just prisoners of the past. Did you know, you're a literary bunch of people on this side of the Atlantic. We're not performing to American rednecks here. But I was a literature major in school, so I have these tidbits of information that, of course, going to an American school means that it costs me thousands of dollars, so I have to use this information somehow. The whole thing with the billboard and the eyes on the cover of the book, like that was just the book cover, and that wasn't even in the book. And then when F. Scott Fitzgerald saw the book cover, he thought it was so cool, he rewrote the book so that it would include this thing with the eyes and the thing. That's thousands of dollars of a literature education. I get those sorts of tidbits. Free of charge here. That's true. Well, the tidbit costs 25 pounds. The rest of the show is free. My girlfriend doesn't worry about the things that always trouble me. She says, why are you so grumpy? Let's just both sit here quiet and calmly. And you probably should be thinking first about how glad you'll be if you do some work and about our relationship. My girlfriend doesn't worry about the vision Mao Zedong had for China. Was agrarian reform for the better, or is cynicism part of our culture? Why did people fight and die for their freedom? Was utopia a lie as a concept? Is the Western model really our future? Is there nothing any better to work towards? And is progress only science in action? Does it truly have a moral dimension? Was the century a dream before failure? Have we settled for this present existence? Was it only necessary for peasants? Would I really give up ego involvement? Is there any global movement for justice in a world of only selfish survival? Because it's obvious we're going to serfdom if we accept the barbarity of the system. But would I really want to work in a factory? Would I really make my art for a leader? Would Mao begin to sum of our music? Or is everything just horror and power? These are massive, giant, trouble and consuming thoughts saturating my thinking. But I think that she'll just think I'm annoying, so I won't bring it up. She says that doesn't make any sense. You should just think about your art and your friends and about our relationship. My girlfriend doesn't question the psychology of Charles Manson. What does it say about the human condition? Why are people so receptive to listen? Why is confidence alone such a magnet? And it's unfair the way that some people have it. And they seem to do the things that they want to. We all just get away with all that we can do, because it's only sexiness that has any value. And all society falls by the wayside into the hierarchy of cults and of parents. And it's genetics to be masters or victims. And does hedonism go with corruption? Why are we drawn to traumas of domination? These are massive, giant, troubling, consuming thoughts that I'm thinking. But I think that she'll just think it's annoying, so I don't bring it up. She says, why aren't you thinking of him? You should just think about your family and friends and about our relationship. My girlfriend doesn't wonder while driving about the emptiness of human existence. How can we make any decision if it's only arbitrary opinions? And why should anyone have a baby? Create another brain of dissatisfaction if we're only biological robots with a program to just mostly feel anxious, except for moments of brief distraction while fulfilling simple functions like eating, while being ordered to enjoy reproducing. How come you never talk about us? Let's just think quiet and nice thoughts and about our relationship. Thanks, we'll do a couple more. Thanks again to David Cronenberg's wife for playing a great set. They have some very cool merchandise downstairs. They even have mugs. We thought we had a lot of merchandise, but they've one-upped us by having the mugs. But we all have records and shirts and CDs and printed matter. I've got my comic books, zines. Please sign our email list. And we have some stickers, many items. But David Cronenberg's wife is, they're no slouch in the merchandise department either. So it's a well-packed merch table. But we're getting to the end of the tour, so certain items are like sold out or selling out. Couple things left, only a couple shows left, which is, we've just had such a wonderful time over here. The weather's been so beautiful. And why are all these people at these shows? I mean, this is like, we're going to have some good turnout, so thank you. Thanks for coming once again. We're just friends, square pegs on our last legs. We're just friends. Was this fated, or is fate unrelated? It's not so complicated. We just failed every time we dated. Now who's left? I guess just all the rest. And I guess that's only me and all the other threads I see. And we're just threads, square pegs on our last legs. We're just threads. There's not a single strand that I can understand. She just didn't take his hand. They just didn't sign her band. The sun just rose some more. We just were never sure. We just had a simple mission, and now thread's just the definition. And we're just threads, square pegs on our last legs. We're just threads that never found a love that they were worthy of. And all the fairy tales don't star whoever fails. 100 million days, 100 million ways to stay stuck in this maze that I just thought was just a phase. But the clock is in spin, the coffin nails are in, the daisy's turning brown, the hammer's coming down on the thread, the square peg. Last one's a rotten egg, but I still feel like a powder keg. Still cranking undergun to miss me. Still wishing heart could make you kiss me. And still single when I'm 50. Friends start to look at you real shifty. So I can't quit. I can't just sit. I can't just slowly drown sideways in a frown. I'll take another look. I'll read another book. Can't let life catch me napping. Can't let that chapter happen. But everywhere I turn, I see the exit burn. I just can't find the door where I'm not me anymore. I guess we should be proud. We stayed outside the crowd. We didn't sell too cheap. Now the identity we keep is just threads, square pegs on our last legs. Just threads. Relaxation is my nemesis. I'm not a nihilist, it's just how I exist. Relaxation's a destroying choice, I wish I had no voice and I avoid my poison. Because relaxation's not motivation, it's disintegration, it's annihilation. An evil twin, I'm not believing it, and I'm not giving it, cause it's oblivion. Relaxation is just television, where there's television, that's not my decision. Relaxation isn't in my interest. To be honest, splinters like atomic winters. Cause if I relax, you slip me with an axe. You hurt me off your back, I'm less than an hour max. If I dare slow down before I turn around, you hold me through the ground and I don't face no sound. So relaxation's not a nice vacation, it's a sweet invasion. Force the world's impatient, or it's not my friend. Just like through the land and I cannot get in, cause it's oblivion. Relaxation is the prize they offer, that they prime me off and line me in a coffin. Because relaxation means you'd all be leaving, like we heard and reason, heard for no reason. Relaxation's just a worm they bait me with, the hurt the faithful, since they burn to hate me with. If I stop sweating, you can sure I'll get it. Just a fast letting that I'm fast beheaded. And I tumble quickly and I cry out sickly, but you'd all be gone before the lights came on. It's a fatal sin, the way it's always been, so I cannot give in, cause it's oblivion. If I relax the shield and let my back reveal, just put me right in half. It's so my guts myself streaming various nature documentaries, and I thought, after watching a whole bunch of streaming nature documentaries, I could probably just make one myself. So this has been recently added to the Jeffrey Lewis and the Voltage low-budget streaming services. Recommended because you watched The Great Gatsby. This is a low-budget nature program where we have spared no expense in finding the finest footage of the finest animals, vegetables, and minerals from our fantastic planet Earth. Magnificent ecosystems, so many different incredible animals, plants. My gosh, what things we have to show you, what delights, what beauty. Spectacular animals. Well, we have tonight season 1, episode 1. These are magnificent, beautiful, fuzzy, sophisticated, intelligent creatures. Oh, they're just spectacular. They're very rarely glimpsed in the wild. We have done this footage at tremendous crayon expense. We found this footage of these wonderful animals. Oh, you're gonna love them. They're just adorable. They're just crucial to all ecosystems. A keystone species, one might call them. And they are cannibal monkeys. Cannibal monkeys eat leaves. They can sniff out the roots and dig out the new shoots. Cannibal monkeys keep watch. They alert one another and every baby and mother. Cannibal monkeys eat starfruit. They love to find this and eat this for the texture and sweetness. Cannibal monkeys trade songs, and they all hang out and listen in a mutual system. And cannibal monkeys eat faces. Cannibal monkeys sniff flowers, and they can tell from a petal the way snowfall will settle. Cannibal monkeys taste water, and if it's healthy and clean, they tell the rest what they've seen. Cannibal monkeys eat seeds, and if they find a lot more of them, they can gather and store them. Cannibal monkeys have friends, and they all gather and scatter in a complex social pattern. And cannibal monkeys eat prefer forests at the edge of the sand where rivers tend to expand. Cannibal monkeys climb willows. They evolve skills and talents that give them excellent balance. And when cannibal monkeys smell berries, they're such particular eaters they might walk 900 meters. Cannibal monkeys breed yearly, and their babies are chubby and super playful and fuzzy. And cannibal monkeys have neighbors. Aside from just family care, they often help out and share. Cannibal monkeys have mates, and they trade partners each season for some biology reason. Cannibal monkeys have dreams. They sleep in groups of big numbers in common dream cycle slumbers. Cannibal monkeys feel wonder. They seem to gather at noon just to all look at the moon. From the sky to the granite, it's a mysterious planet. That song, Travel Light, that we played earlier, was co-written by our dear old friend Diane Cluck. She's a great songwriter. She's actually got a great new album out called House Tears, so you should look up Diane Cluck's album House Tears, and if you see her playing anywhere near you, go tell her that Jeffrey Lewis and the Voltage say hello. Diane and I always stay in contact. We tell each other about the new songs we're working on. We play each other new stuff we're working on. If she tours through New York, she usually sleeps on my couch. And then if we're touring through her part of the South, we usually stay at her house. So we're always like giving each other constructive criticism or trying to encourage each other's different songwriting directions. And she suggested that I was writing too many gloomy, grumpy songs and that I should write something where, like, I admit that my life is actually not so horrible, so a kind of a, affirming, positive kind of thing. So this song, I have to credit Diane with encouraging me to try writing something like this. I've got good things, so my perspective needs a radical twist. I know there's reasons I should exist. My life is good, I just have to insist. Cause there's so many good things on my list. And there's probably more that I've missed. I've got money in my checking and my savings accounts that used to seem like unrealistic amounts. And I even deserve it, I've had loving, though it seems impossible when I'm lonely. There were times great women wanted to know me, and I even deserve it. I'm in shape. I mean, just enough, but not too outrageous. Cause I've been jogging 30 minutes for ages, and I keep up to deserve it. I've got art. To me, that's where my skills always stood out. I've been drawing all my life, and I'm good now, and I keep up to deserve it. I've got good things, so my perspective needs a radical twist. I guess there's reasons I should exist. It's obnoxious, but I have to insist, cause there's so many good things on my list. And there's probably more that I've missed. I'm successful beyond anything I ever could picture. I'm a small but thriving cultural fixture, and I think I deserve it. I've got friends for talking or for drinking or eating, from the oldest to the new ones I'm meeting, and they keep me surviving. I got out to every state from Cali to Carolina, to the pyramids and Great Wall of China, and I still can't believe it. My rank's achieved in the place I've always dreamed I would be. It's the best thing that ever happened to me, but I probably don't deserve it. New York City, there's a reason why we know that we chose it. We think it's the greatest place and everyone knows it. Despite our complaining, the U.S., it is so beautiful, diverse and exciting. Though there's a million problems it's no longer hiding. We can't be blind to what's great there, and there's food, all the recipes the world has come up with. I make great things that I even got stuff with, and I eat every day, and there's books at a level of such genius engagement, pure enlightenment and pure entertainment. You just fly through the pages, and there's movies, from the weirdest and your absolute favorite to your favorite no one even has made yet. Sometimes they've blown me away. And there's comic books, all those comics at the heart of my life, that often were the greatest art of my life. How much joy they have brought me. I've got good things, so my perspective needs a radical twist. My life's incredible, I have to insist. I know there's reasons I should exist, cause there's so many good things on my list. And there's probably more that I've missed. And there's ice cream, and there's so many flavors that I get. And there's flavors that I still haven't tried yet. It's just heaven on earth, and there's kisses, like when me and Sally kissed down on Mott Street. Santa's floating like we ain't even got feet. I'm so happy that happened, and adventures. There were times I had some awesome exploring. All these travels and incredible touring. And I hope we'll do more soon. And the earth, just the smell of the dirt and the air, and all the water and plants everywhere. Unbelievable life forms, and there's space. Oh, the endless, infinite, and mind-blowing. Even just a little fraction that's showing. It's just too much to deal with, and fun. What the hell is this thing we call fun? It happens sometimes even to everyone. Can't deny that it feels good. And records. Oh my God, so many mind-blowing records. Jesus Christ, there are so many good records. This entire song could just have been records. Even if the song was just about records, there would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, I bet. And those are just all of the hundreds that I don't even know yet. I've got good things, so my perspective needs a radical twist. I I guess there's reasons I should exist. My life is good, I just have to insist. Cause there's 100 good things on my list. And there's probably more that I've missed.
Thanks a lot.